Long ago, in a kingdom so vast that its borders disappeared into the horizon, a child was born beneath a sky filled with thousands of shimmering stars. The people celebrated for 7 days and 7 nights. They believed the newborn prince would one day become the greatest king in history. His father, the mighty King Aldrin, looked into his son's tiny eyes and whispered, "One day, all of this will belong to you." The palace echoed with hope. But destiny had written a different story. As the prince grew older, it became clear that he was unlike the other children. He was gentle, quiet, and painfully weak. While the sons of nobles learned sword fighting, the young prince struggled to lift even a wooden practice blade. He often became sick. He tired easily. The royal soldiers quietly laughed behind his back. The ministers began to worry. And the king grew disappointed. Years passed. The prince tried every day. He practiced until sunset. He fell. He failed. He stood again. Yet nothing seemed to change. One cold winter morning, after watching his son collapse during military training once again, King Aldrin made the hardest decision of his life. Or perhaps, the cruelest. "You cannot rule this kingdom," the king declared before the royal court. "A weak king invites darkness." Without another word, the prince was stripped of his title. His royal clothes were taken away. His name was erased from the palace records. And before sunset, he was sent beyond the kingdom's gates. Alone. With nothing except a small backpack. And a broken heart. For days the young man wandered without direction. The roads disappeared. The villages became fewer. Eventually, he reached an ancient forest. It was known by travelers as the Whispering Forest. Few entered. Almost none returned. The prince had nowhere else to go. So, he stepped inside. The forest was unlike anything he had ever seen. Trees touched the clouds. Many mornings he wondered if he would survive another day. But something slowly began to change. Without servants, he learned to care for himself. Without soldiers, he learned to protect himself. Without luxury, he learned gratitude. Every sunrise became a lesson. Every mistake became a teacher. One evening, while searching for fresh water, he discovered an old man living deep within the forest. The stranger wore simple robes. His hair was as white as snow. Yet his eyes shone with remarkable wisdom. The old man smiled. "I have been waiting for you." The prince was confused. "You know who I am?" The old man nodded. "I know who you were. But more importantly, I know who you can become." The old man became his mentor. He never taught magic. He never gave him secret weapons. Instead, he taught discipline, patience, courage, and the greatest lesson of all: true strength begins inside the mind. Years passed. The weak prince disappeared. In his place stood someone entirely different. His body became powerful. His movements became precise. His thoughts became calm. He climbed mountains carrying heavy stones. He crossed freezing rivers every morning. He trained beneath storms. He meditated beneath ancient trees. The forest itself became his teacher. Even the wild wolves no longer feared him. Instead, they walked beside him. Birds rested on his shoulders. The creatures of the forest recognized something rare. A leader who ruled without fear. One spring morning, travelers entered the forest. Their villages had been destroyed by war. They had nowhere to go. The prince welcomed them. Together, they built wooden homes. Soon more families arrived. Farmers, blacksmiths, builders, scholars, artists. Everyone who had lost hope found peace there. The prince never called himself king. He simply worked beside them. Building, planting, teaching, listening. The settlement grew into a village. The village became a city. The city became something the world had never imagined. Massive gardens floated above sparkling lakes. Towering libraries preserved knowledge from every land. Roads stretched farther than the eye could see. No one went hungry. No child was abandoned. Justice belonged equally to the poor and the wealthy. People from distant kingdoms traveled for months just to witness this impossible place. They called it the Kingdom of Dawn. A kingdom not built by power, but by compassion. Many years later, King Aldrin had grown old. His once great empire had weakened. Greed divided the nobles. Corruption filled the palace. Enemies surrounded the borders. The mighty kingdom that had rejected its prince was slowly falling apart. Then, rumors reached the old king. Beyond the Whispering Forest, there existed a kingdom unlike any on earth. Its people lived without fear. Its cities sparkled like stars. Its ruler was wise, kind, and beloved. The old king decided to see it himself. Disguised as an ordinary traveler, he crossed the forest. When he finally entered the magnificent capital, he could hardly believe his eyes. Everything he had dreamed of building stood before him. Children laughed freely. Markets overflowed with food. People smiled at strangers. There were no beggars. No corruption. No fear. Then, the ruler entered the great hall. The king froze. It was his son, the weak prince he had cast away, now standing taller than any warrior. His eyes carried peace instead of anger. King Aldrin slowly removed his hood. "I'm sorry." The words echoed through the silent hall. "I judged your strength with my eyes, instead of my heart." The prince walked forward. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, the son embraced his father. "I lost a kingdom," he whispered, "so I built a better one." From that day forward, people remembered the forgotten prince, not because he was born into royalty, but because he proved that greatness is never inherited. It is earned. Sometimes, the world rejects those who are different. Sometimes, our greatest failures become the beginning of our greatest journey. And perhaps, the strongest kingdoms are not built with swords, but with kindness, wisdom, and an unbreakable spirit. As the stars filled the night sky above the Kingdom of Dawn, the wind gently whispered through the trees, telling the timeless story of the prince who was abandoned, only to build the greatest kingdom the world had ever known. The end.